We are honored to have you joining us, albeit via teleconference, and look forward to discuss climate change, a matter of utmost importance for our region. We would like to inform you that the meeting will be recorded in order to review and take everybody's intervention into close consideration. It is my pleasure to welcome to the podium our first speaker for the day, the Honorable Minister, Professor Kostas Kadis, Minister of Agriculture, Rural Development and Environment of the Republic of Cyprus, who will introduce the initiative. Thank you. Welcome, Minister.
Your Excellencies, dear colleagues, Ministers of the Environment, distinguished guests. I welcome you all to this virtual ministerial meeting, which, as you know, takes place within the framework of the Cyprus government initiative for coordinating climate change actions in the Eastern Mediterranean and Middle East. Thank you very much for being with us today, despite your busy schedule. Meeting online may be easier, but is no substitute for in-person communication. So I do hope that in the follow-up meeting that we plan for the 7th of June, we shall have the honor and the pleasure of hosting you all in Cyprus. We have gathered today to discuss the initiative for coordinating climate change actions in the Eastern Mediterranean and Middle East, a region that has been classified by the scientific community as a global climate change hotspot. Projections concerning the impact of climate change on our region are especially alarming. Actually, we are already witnessing prolonged periods of drought and increased temperatures, as well as extreme weather phenomena, which affect our ecosystems and the well-being of our society. All the countries of the region have underlined their serious concerns about climate change impacts and expressed their willingness to comply with the Paris Agreement. However, their efforts are held back due to the lack of detailed environmental observations and modeling, which are necessary for formulating accurate predictions, mitigation and adaptation strategies to climate change, and coordinated policy actions, common projects, and sharing of good practices. These gaps were identified and discussed at an international conference on climate change in the Mediterranean and the Middle East, which was organized by the Cyprus Institute in May 2018. The Cyprus Institute is a regional center of scientific excellence on climate research. That conference attracted distinguished scientists and policymakers from more than 30 countries and international organizations. The main message from the conference and from the scientific community was that coordinated action based on sound scientific knowledge and regional collaboration is required to effectively address climate change in our region. That message was well received by the President of the Republic of Cyprus, Mr. Nikos Anastasiadis, who expressed his vision for Cyprus to undertake an international initiative aiming at bringing together the countries of the region and strengthening their collaborative efforts to ameliorate climate change and its impacts. The initiative is structured in two components, the scientific component and the decision-making component. Within the framework of the scientific component, 13 task forces have been established, engaging more than 240 scientists. 3/4 of these scientists are from the Eastern Mediterranean and Middle East region. The task forces also engage scientists and policymakers from other countries and representatives of international organizations. The scientific component of the initiative is coordinated by the Cyprus Institute. These are the 13 task forces that have been established and have carried out important scientific work during the last 2 years. The advanced findings of each task force were presented at the second International Conference on Climate Change in the Eastern Mediterranean and Middle East, which was organized in Cyprus on the 13th and 14th of October 2021. Professor Papanikolas will later on provide information about the scientific component of the initiative. What is important to note is that we have now available comprehensive reports in all areas of climate change mitigation and adaptation, and scientifically valid suggestions on policies and measures. I take this opportunity to extend my wholehearted thanks to all the scientists who worked for the initiative and provided us with this valuable information. Today, we will discuss the way of utilizing this very important scientific knowledge. While each of our governments has its own climate change policies and plans, we can complement and enhance them with regional projects and services and secure additional international resources for them. We therefore propose the development of a regional action plan, which actually will be a toolkit composed of measures that are scientifically sound, suitable for our region, applicable, and economically feasible. This action plan will provide the flexibility to each state to decide where and how it wants to be involved. It will be dynamic and open to new ideas and new participations, leading to climate projects and services complementary to national plans. Most importantly, it will promote the launching of the necessary transboundary actions which could attract international attention and support. This ministerial meeting has been designed since the beginning of our initiative as a milestone marking the transition from the scientific and techno-economic planning to actual implementation. Following the three presentations on the scientific work, the proposed action plan, and the proposed governance, monitoring, and funding, we hope to receive your feedback. This feedback will be utilized for developing a commonly accepted action plan that will be discussed and finalized in our meeting in June and approved by the heads of our states in a regional summit that will take place in October. We have prepared a number of questions to facilitate the process, but of course, you can feel free to add any comments and proposals you might have. Before concluding, let me underline the benefits of participating in the Eastern Mediterranean and Middle East Regional Initiative, which are many. Beyond our moral obligation to act, key advantages of participating includes gaining technical support, capacity building, technological solutions, effectiveness, and reducing the cost of implementation. Above all, it will allow necessary transboundary cooperation and international funding. The Cyprus initiative has secured support from several heads of state, especially from the Eastern Mediterranean and Middle East region, and from international organizations such as FAO, the Union for the Mediterranean, and the European Commission. I conclude with the message that our initiative sends to the region and to the international community, scientists, policymakers, and the society. And this message is that we must either act now and act collectively based on sound scientific knowledge, or forever live with the consequences of climate change. Once again, thank you for your participation and continued support, and I'm looking forward to receiving your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Cadiz, for this very thorough description of the initiative and for outlining the goals for its continuation. We will now welcome His Excellency Mr. Nikos Anastasiadis, the President of the Republic of Cyprus, for his opening remarks. Thank you.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that I welcome you all at today's ministerial meeting for the climate change in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Middle East initiative, organized and hosted by the Ministry of Agriculture. The participation today of so many renowned scientists and eminent policymakers from our immediate region is a testament not only for the magnitude of the threat posed by the climate crisis, but also of our readiness to coordinate synergies and share best practices. A region which is classified as a hot spot, with our countries already witnessing its catastrophic effects on agriculture, public health, tourism, ecosystem development, and water supplies, disrupting in this way our economies and everyday lives. Bearing in mind the necessity to act on the current climate emergency in a collective manner, as well as the fact that scientific predictions denote that the overall situation is expected to worsen in the years ahead, my government took the initiative to coordinate a regional response to this challenge. In the context of the said initiative, the Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Kostas Kadis, and my personal envoy for climate change, Professor Kostas Papanikolaou, coordinated the work of 13 regional task forces with the participation of more than 240 scientists from our wide region for the preparation and submission of specific proposals and solutions. Solutions that they are scientifically sound, technologically mature, and cost-effective. In this respect, I would like to take this opportunity to express my sincere thanks and appreciation to all the scientists and experts involved in this project on a voluntary basis. Your assessments and policy recommendations provide the solid foundation for the initiative's second phase, starting with the development of a comprehensive regional action plan, actually, the effective implementation of which will eventually enable our countries to advance actions aimed at reducing greenhouse gas emissions and adjust to the devastating impact of climate change. Second, initiate appropriate mechanisms for more comprehensive and resilient economies through the transition to renewable and cleaner energy. Third, exchange access of financial mechanisms and instruments associated to climate change. Fourth, bring forth incentives to businesses and industries with the aim to adapt and switch to green and sustainable technologies. And fifth, create new green jobs and opportunities. Having said that, we do hope that the European Union, as well as other regional and international organizations, will support in several ways our initiative. Distinguished friends, ladies and gentlemen, in addition to our concerned efforts to avert the climate challenge at the regional level, Cyprus remains fully committed in advancing multiple policies to fulfill the Paris Agreement's goals and to implement our commitments at EU level and help achieve its ambitious targets. To this end, my government has decided to allocate 41% of our National Resilience and Recovery Plan, which translates to more than 500 million euros for the period up until 2026 for measures introducing cleaner fuels and contributing to Cyprus' green transition. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, climate change is affecting every country, every region, every continent, and can only be tackled if we collectively act and create together the future we all aspire to live in. In closing, dear friends, I would like to express my great appreciation to the Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Kostas Kadis, and my personal envoy on climate change, Professor Papanikolas, for their important work and for hosting today's virtual meeting, as well as to extend my best wishes to all the participants for productive deliberations. I very much look forward to welcoming you to Cyprus next June for the second ministerial meeting, during which we hope to finalize the framework of the regional action plan and agreed on the mechanisms of its implementation. Thank you all. Thank you for your attention.
We will now have with us Mrs. Janet Rogan, COP26 Regional Ambassador for the Middle East and Middle Africa. Mrs. Rogan, welcome. We're happy to have you.
Thank you very much. And I'm very happy to be here with you today. Your Excellency, President Nikos Anastasiadis, Minister Kostas Kadis, our most welcoming host, and Professor Kostas Papanikolas, Your Excellencies, distinguished ministers and special envoys from the region, representatives of international organizations and the wider diplomatic and academic community, and officials from the government of Cyprus, and I see many others joining online. Good morning, and thank you for inviting me to speak. It is my honor today to represent Alok Sharma, COP26 president, who is truly disappointed to be able to join you today. He sends his congratulations to you all, in particular to President Anastasiadis for the launch of the Cyprus government initiative in the Eastern Mediterranean and Middle East at COP26, and to Professor Papanikolas of the Cyprus Institute for shepherding all the many elements of the initiative to this very threshold of implementation and concerted action. Your Excellencies, I think we were all present at COP26 in Glasgow, and together were part of launching a historic change of pace from the new global promise articulated at COP21 in Paris into practical implementation mode at COP26. The UK has recognized that in this new implementation phase, we must, as COP presidency, continue to lead implementation efforts, not only through the usual UNFCCC technical processes, but also through continued engagement and solidarity at the political level, and in particular, through continuing our collective efforts to mobilize resources, share experiences, and get the finances flowing. The Glasgow Climate Pact encompasses many declarations, pledges, and initiatives, and I'm delighted to note that we have already established mechanisms for working with Egypt as incoming COP27 presidency to ensure solid implementation and an orderly transition of business during 2022 from Glasgow to Sharm el-Sheikh, and with the United Arab Emirates as future COP28 presidency in 2023, noting that 2023 will also be the year of the global stocktake. Your Excellencies, COVID-19 has devastated our lives, our economies, our social structures, our children's education. It has horrifyingly compromised the safety of women worldwide, even in their own homes. The impacts of global warming are affecting the conditions for survival of humanity and other life on this planet, whether it's temperature rises, drought and desertification, or seasonal rainfall changes, floods, or other catastrophic weather events. Changing sea levels and salinity are affecting not only food supplies and livelihoods, but also global navigation. Even in the last 2 weeks, we have seen a major climate catastrophe declared in Lima, Peru, resulting from a massive offshore oil spill. Yesterday, the Prime Minister resigned and cabinet was dissolved in that country. Climate change is a geopolitical and security issue every bit as much as it is an environmental one. There are more conflicts around the world, including this region, than ever. People flee wildfires and droughts. Conflict over resources spills over borders. If they were a country, the number of refugees and displaced people put together would be the 16th largest in the world. Together, the challenges of COVID, climate, and insecurity have tested the resilience of our national and international structures almost to breaking point. Addressing this complex web of challenges does require a coordinated effort at national level, and also regionally to tackle threats that recognize no geopolitical borders. The beauty of the approach in the Cyprus government initiative is that it systematically recognizes the interrelatedness of these challenges and threats, and has just as systematically gathered data and done analysis to underpin a plan of action based on evidence and under which progress can be measured. This regional action plan has the potential to be one of the most important political coordination mechanisms, not only for this region, but globally, to push back damage done, to restore nature and balance, to use adaptive approaches on new renewable energy transitions and green economic recovery, and to engage populations across the region to work together on the massive problems that they face in common. This reflects the spirit of practical implementation captured in the Glasgow Climate Pact to keep 1.5 alive, to adapt our ways of living and build our resilience to climate shocks, to share the financing and the technologies that will make it possible, and above all, to collaborate across all sectors and levels of society to make sure we leave no one behind. As COP26 presidency, we heartily thank all participating countries for committing to this important regional approach to coordinating climate action. And we wish you success today in moving it on towards final endorsement and implementation. Thank you.
The environmental climate crisis we're facing, giving us this social context as well. And we also hope that we will have the practical implementation, as you say. We will now continue with Professor Petri Talas, Secretary General of the World Meteorological Organization of the United Nations. Professor Talas.
Dear Minister Kostas Kadis, Minister of Agriculture, Rural Development and Environment, dear fellow ministers, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to address you and this ministerial meeting that you are now organizing. It's a very timely meeting, and the issue that you are talking about, climate change actions in Middle East and Eastern Mediterranean, that's very timely and actual. If you look at the science, we can say that Mediterranean region is the second most warmed region after Arctic, which has warmed the most globally. And we have also seen decrease in the rainfall in your part of the world. And of course, you are experiencing also sea level rise, which used to be about 2 millimeters per year 20 years ago. But nowadays it's exceeding 4 millimeters per year. So this is also one of the long-term challenges that you are facing. We just came out of the Glasgow COP conference, which was held in November, and in the UN we regard it as the second most successful COP meeting after Paris. We saw very good progress in G7 countries, including European Union, which covers about 1/3 of the global emissions. Those pledges that were put on the table there, they would lead to 1.5 degree warming. But the rest of the G20 countries, including BRICS countries, which cover almost half of the global emissions, they were not yet ready to have pledges that would lead to the Paris targets. And of course, the next COP will be hosted by Egypt and thereafter one in Arab Emirates. And I'm sure that those governments very well understand the challenges of Mediterranean and Middle East, and they are also exposed to this warming and changes in the rainfall patterns and sea level rise. And we have already been interacting with the presidency of next COP27, Egypt, and we all understand that there's a need to raise the ambition level of mitigation, but also pay attention to adaptation. WMO and IPCC have just published several reports, and we also have various options for the future. And in all of the cases, it seems that Mediterranean region and Middle East will become hotter and drier, and especially the soil moisture will be decreased in all of the scenarios, 1.5, 2 degrees, and even 4 degrees, which is hopefully not going to happen. And those mean major challenges for agriculture, and they also mean main challenges for tourism. So if the temperatures are 50 degrees and it's very dry, it's not very attractive for tourists to come to the region, and of course it's going to be a major challenge for agriculture. Besides mitigation, we have to pay attention to climate adaptation, and that means how we use water resources, how we adapt to the sea level rise, and also acidification of the sea waters. We know that we could stop this negative trend in disasters related to weather if we are successful in reaching the Paris limits, but we have already exceeded 400 ppm of carbon dioxide, actually more than 420 recently. That means that the melting of the glaciers will continue for the coming centuries, and that will also boost the sea level rise, and even fairly high numbers are possible if the Antarctic melting is happening in a more speedy manner. We know that one of the reasons behind the Arab Spring, which was hitting Tunis, Egypt, Libya, and Syria, was the fact that there was drought for a couple of years, which led to both unrest, unemployment of the rural population, and also rise of the food price. And these kind of events are more likely to happen more often in the future, and there's also a risk for refugees related to such events. But we have, besides these bad news that I was just reporting to you, there's also hope. We have technological means to be successful in climate mitigation. There's growing amount of financing going to green technologies, and for example, at the Glasgow COP, it was clear that this problem has been recognized by the heads of state, and that means that we have also hope. But we need to raise the ambition level of mitigation, and of course, anyhow, pay attention to adaptation. And WMO is ready to help in adaptation. We are dealing with early warning services, climate services, and also hydrological services. We are dealing with observing systems, and we are also friends of peaceful cooperation. Even during the days of Cold War, East and West blocs were able to collaborate independent of political challenges, and that's also good news for your region, and we are also promoting cooperation in your region, independent of the political challenges the countries are having. So it's important to exchange data and know-how, and build better early warning services, which are helping you to adapt to these negative changes that we have already faced, and we will face more in the near future. Finally, I would like to congratulate the government of Cyprus for this initiative, which is very, very timely and very important. And from WMO's side, we are happy to contribute and participate in your important work.
Thank you very much, Professor Talas. Thank you for outlining the challenges we are facing and will be facing because of the climate crisis. And hopefully we're on our way on developing the techniques and establishing the policies to face these challenges. I am now very pleased to welcome the representative of the European Commission in Cyprus, Mr. Nicholas Isaris. Mr. Isaris is the deputy head of the representation and will be representing today Mrs. Mirto Zambarta, the head of the delegation, who could not be with us, unfortunately. Mr. Isaris, welcome. We are happy to have you.
Thank you very much. And good morning, Your Excellencies, honorable ministers, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed my pleasure and a great honor to address on behalf of the European Commission this ministerial meeting on the Cyprus government initiative for coordinating climate change actions in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Middle East. Climate change is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, challenge of the 21st century. It constitutes a threat to the environment, our societies and our economies, and as we have realized, there can no longer be any room for postponement in our actions. It is undeniable that this crisis has impacts on every aspect of our lives, from agriculture to public health, to ecosystem development, and on sectors such as tourism, water resources, security, and on humanitarian issues, with a large number of climate refugees and migration flows being already observed. As the EU Climate Action Progress Report shows, greenhouse gas emissions in the European Union fell in 2020 by almost 10% compared to 2019, which brought overall emission reductions to 31% compared to 1990. But this is not enough. According to Eurostat, in 2019, renewable energy accounted for 34% of gross electricity consumption in the European Union. In Cyprus, this figure was much lower, something that shows the need for further actions. When we talk about climate crisis, we must not forget its cross-border character and the fact that it calls for an international coordination and a collective response. The Eastern Mediterranean and the Middle East, which is the geopolitical family of Cyprus, has been identified as a global climate change hotspot, the effects of which start already being visible. Cyprus can have a pivotal role towards climate neutrality, both on a regional and a European level, by leveraging its unique geopolitical location and by enhancing its role as regional hub for climate change research, and so as to help the region surpass the lack of climate modeling and of coordinated policy actions. International initiatives like this one, which consists of two distinct components, a scientific one and a decision-making one, can offer a holistic approach so as to transform the region into an alternative energy path aimed at reducing dependence on traditional and polluting forms of energy, and of course so as to reach a climate-neutral Europe. The merit of this initiative is the fact that this kind of cooperation would not deliver results only on climate change, but will also help to create and maintain security, stability, and prosperity in the region. Your Excellencies, climate crisis does not wait. We must act now and fast. It is the time to put all the plans, all the promises into practice. The European Commission is and will continue to be a supporter of such initiatives, and we are looking forward to the finalization of the regional action plan that will serve as the framework for further collective work in combating climate change. Allow me once more to thank you, and I wish to all of us a fruitful discussion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Isaris. We also hope to count with the support of the European Commission in the implementation of this plan. We will now continue. I would like to welcome Mr. David Livingstone, Senior Advisor to the US Special Presidential Envoy for Climate Change. Hello, it's very nice that we can have you with us, Mr. Livingston.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kalimera. Evharisto for allowing me to join you today for the ministerial meeting of the Cyprus Government Initiative for coordinating climate change actions in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Middle East. My name is David Livingston, and I serve as a senior advisor to Secretary Kerry in his role as Special Presidential Envoy for Climate Change. It has been an incredibly productive and busy past year for the United States, as we sprinted to have the US rejoin the Paris Agreement, put forward an ambitious 2030 climate goal of 50 to 52% emissions reductions by the end of this decade, and launch multiple exciting new initiatives, from the Agriculture Innovation Mission for Climate to the First Movers Coalition and the Global Methane Pledge, that were indeed meant to send the signal that the United States is not only back, but we are serious and committed to working with the rest of the world on addressing the climate crisis together. That is why it is so important to join today in support of this welcome initiative. On behalf of not only myself, but also Secretary Kerry, I would like to congratulate the Republic of Cyprus for launching the Climate Change Initiative. The Eastern Mediterranean and Middle East will be one of the most affected regions on the planet, expecting higher temperatures, unprecedented heat waves, and water scarcity. Thanks to the combined scientific efforts of the initiative's participants, we have a much clearer picture of exactly what may come to pass in the region, both in terms of direct climate impacts and in human terms. The scientific phase of the initiative did something especially noteworthy. It not only produced an analysis, but also presented practical, region-specific actions that can help to mitigate and adapt to the climate crisis in a coordinated way. And these ideas went far beyond the previous work, reaching into preserving cultural heritage, adapting economies for a just transition, and even incorporating climate science into education. We applaud this unique approach, bridging a gap between our shared global commitments made through the Paris Agreement and all our nationally determined contributions as parties to that agreement. The regional action plan this conference will develop holds enormous potential. There are multiple powerful arguments for working together to address the climate crisis, not only in reducing the future risks and damages that our societies might face, but also in terms of seizing the enormous opportunities that lie in the clean energy transition. Clean energy, from wind and solar to gas with carbon capture, to batteries, hydropower, electric vehicles, and beyond, are no longer just alternative energy. These are truly the centerpieces of the 21st century energy economy. And those who position themselves well for this new energy paradigm will capture growing investment and opportunity. Indeed, just last year, in 2021, as the world was still very much struggling with and recovering from this global COVID pandemic, the clean energy transition was nonetheless able to capture a new record in terms of global investment at $755 billion. When $750 billion per year is being plowed into clean energy and climate technologies to address this crisis, the rationale for the United States and Cyprus, as well as other countries in the region, to work together on this issue, it's not just a matter of physics, it's a matter of dollars and cents. No wonder there's so much excitement surrounding, for example, the Euro-Asia Interconnector project, which promises to help connect the electricity networks of Israel, Cyprus, and Greece. I am heartened by the strong vote of confidence by the European Commission in this project, given their recent commitment of more than 600 million euros. And please know that Secretary Kerry, Secretary Blinken, President Biden, and this entire administration stand behind this project as an important step forward in advancing regional integration, energy security, resilience, and energy flexibility for years to come. I truly wish that I could be with you today in person to carry forward these important conversations. My last time in beautiful Nicosia was before the COVID pandemic, and it was indeed to participate in a conference on climate change and clean energy transition in the region. I hope that I'll be able to meet many of you in person in due time, to see old friends again and to meet new ones. And I am again grateful for the opportunity to join you virtually here today. Thank you for this work. Thank you for the attention that you are bringing to the climate challenges and opportunities in this region. And I look forward to working together to tackling the climate crisis in a way that makes our fellow citizens healthier, wealthier, and with a more secure future for themselves and for future generations for years to come. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the day's conversations.
Thank you very much, Mr. Livingstone. It's a great pleasure to have you with us, and we hope to your help also to face this climate crisis. And we would love to welcome you to Cyprus in person when conditions allow it. We will now continue with Professor Gramenos Mastrogianni, the Senior Deputy Secretary and General Head of the Energy and Climate Action Division at the Union of the Mediterranean. Professor Mastrogianni, welcome.
Good morning, Excellencies. Good morning, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Και καλημέρα σας. The title itself of this moment of reflection incorporates the only solution we have for the climate crisis in the Mediterranean. Analysis run through our own systems and sponsored by us tell us two things about our region. The first one, it's now very well known. We are extremely exposed to very severe and quick impacts. We are the second fastest warming region in the world, and this is in itself a big problem. It implies impacts like a very rapid rise of sea level, bringing perspectives like the salinization of the delta of the Nile, with all that it implies with its agriculture, just to mention one, or 250 million people in water scarcity within just a few years. And this is a severe scenario in itself, but it becomes much more concerning if we consider that it impacts a region which is characterized by a very high asymmetry and lack of integration. It means that we are in a region in which trends in demographics, in wealth production, and in many other areas are not parallel. We have a region of communities who can and communities who can't. If we don't take this situation in a conscious way, the natural outcome would be driving this region towards competition in face of vanishing resources, which is extremely dangerous. And competition, the opposite of coordination, is the real doom of the Mediterranean, east, west, north, and south. Science tells us that there is another way out. And when I say science, it's not only the hard science of climatologists, it is also the science of political science, of economics, etc. What it tells us, to make a very long story short, is that no one around the Mediterranean is strong enough to face a change of this pace and of this importance on its own. We need each other. The North Shore needs, for instance, to rely on the phytogenetic heritage of the South Shore, because the crops that are productive now on the South Shore will be able in the future to save the agricultures and also the whole economies of the countries in the north. The North Shore, the European Union, is well aware of the fact that there is no reaching the objectives of the Green Deal if we cannot count on the renewables potential of the Southern Shore. And the Southern Shore, in turn, is well aware of the fact that such a sector cannot be developed in an economically viable way if we do not integrate markets. So let me express the full-fledged will of my organization, the Union for the Mediterranean, to be part and sustain the process that has been led now for years by Cyprus, because we recognize that it embodies the very solution that our member states have identified as the only way out in front of the climate crisis. Letting me add one more thing. We have had for many years the perception that to do something for climate, we need to give up advantages in other sectors. To be climate compliant, for instance, we had the perception that we should downturn our economies. Well, this is not true. An economy of cooperation is the only economy that can launch our region. And by the way, it is also the only economy that can help us overcome the conflicts that have always been present in our region. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Mastroianni. We're also hoping to have this international and regional cooperation to continue in this path. We will now have our last speaker for today. We have with us the Honorable Minister, Dr. Yasmin Fouad, Minister of Environment of the Arab Republic of Egypt, and of course in the presidency for the 2022 United Nations Climate Change Conference, or COP27. Dr. Fouad.
Good morning, Excellencies, Your Excellency, the President of Cyprus, Your Excellency, the Cyprus Minister of Environment. Let me at the outset express our deep appreciation for our long and outstanding partnership with Cyprus in various development sectors that started since centuries. In the field of environment, we have worked together at the bilateral level, as well as the trilateral level, where we have tangible joint forces in order to protect the environment in our region. Egypt expresses its deep appreciation for the Cypriot effort to launch this vital initiative for coordinating climate change actions in the Eastern Mediterranean and Middle East. It's really important, as the countries of the region have witnessed serious concerns about regional and national climate change impacts on various developmental sectors, and expressed their willingness to comply with the Paris Agreement. Although that the CO2 emission of Egypt is less than 1% out of the total world emission, we still believe and consider and committed that climate change is a decisive issue in our area and committed to the Paris Agreement. Its global impact is unprecedented as regards the change of the weather, which threatens the food production. It affects the sea level rise, and it does affect the livelihood of millions of local communities. Adaptation with such changes will become more difficult and costly in the future if there is no radical change that is taken collectively, and considering the responsibilities that is an integral part of the Paris Agreement. Accordingly, we have been for years participating in the UN climate talks. We have supported several processes of cooperation with countries and parties to the convention in order to achieve the commitments under the Paris Agreement. Meanwhile, Egypt had previously submitted a political declaration urging countries to put the file of adaptation to climate change among their priorities of funding, especially since 107 out of 190 countries joined the political declaration that Egypt and the UK has launched, which is the UK Adaptation and Resilience Coalition. Still, we have 73 international organizations that had also joined that declaration. We see that adaptation to climate change is a priority within our region and could be usefully utilized within the action plan that is discussed today and initiated by Cyprus. In COP27, we will resume the outcomes that came out from COP26 and build further in order to protect our planet, in order to reduce greenhouse gases emission, and for further adaptation and resilience community to the impact of climate change.
Thank you very much, Minister Fuad. We look forward to be at COP27, hopefully with our agenda as well, much more advanced. We will now continue with, well, I would like first of all to thank once more all of our speakers for this session. Ms. Rogan, Mr. Livingstone, Professor Mastoyeni, Mr. Isaris, Professor Talas, Minister Fuad, and Your Excellency, Mr. Anastasiadis. We will now continue with the next session, which will include 3 presentations, which will refer to the work that has been done, as well as the future endeavors of this initiative. I would like to say here that when the presentations are concluded and after a short coffee break, we will be welcoming the interventions of ministers and government representatives based on both the presentations that you're about to see, as well as the relevant documents that have been sent ahead of time. We will now continue with the first presentation of the session, which will be a review of the scientific work that has been done in the framework of the Cyprus Government Initiative. I would like to welcome for this presentation Professor Kostas Papanikolas, who is the president of the Cyprus Institute and also the advisor to the President of the Republic of Cyprus and special envoy on climate change, who will give us the relevant overview. Welcome, Professor Papanikolas.
Good morning, Excellencies. As Minister Kadis just reported and explained, the Eastern Mediterranean, Middle East region, our home, will be hit early and will be hit hard, affected heavily by the evolving climate crisis. The situation in our region is such that justifies and is well accepted now as the primary hotspot on the planet, taking into account not only the intensity of the evolving climate change, but also the geopolitical sensitivities and the populace, the very population, which is about 450 million inhabitants that populate this area. Extreme heat waves, shortage of water, rising sea level, already mentioned by Dr. Talas from the WMO, risk, if we don't do anything, of collapse of agriculture and with vast societal implications, leading to migration and other geopolitical ripple effects. Our region is also a big player in the emissions. Unfortunately, we are, as a region, a big contributor to the problem, the greenhouse gas emissions, which of course generate all these catastrophes and calamities that we're discussing. In 2021, our region, the Eastern Mediterranean Middle East region, exceeded in emissions the European Union. We have about the same populations. Now we have about the same emissions. What is really bad is while European Union adhering to a large degree to the Paris Accords is declining its emissions. As you see in the figure here, our region is rapidly increasing emissions. The trend is upwards, as you can see, in not only adhering, but in gross violation of the targets of the Paris Agreement. So a big challenge for our region is to mitigate, turn around this curve to declining emissions instead of rising emissions. The modeling predictions, and this is the most recent detailed modeling, world-class modeling with high resolution, both temporal and spatial, tells the story. If we do nothing, the business as usual scenario, as you can see, forecast in excess of 5 degrees rise by the end of the century. What does that mean? Nobody knows. It's catastrophe beyond comprehension. No mitigation, no adaptation can repair this. We don't, and we do not understand, and we cannot possibly contemplate what that means. It's catastrophe in capital letters. On the other hand, if we adhere to the Paris Agreement, this is the blue curve, we have hope, and this is very optimistic, to stay below 2 degrees, which will have, as you can see on the maps on the right, increases. There will be effects like sea level rise, which will continue. There will be extreme heat waves, but with the appropriate adaptation measures, we can hope to manage and ameliorate the pending catastrophes. Just to, out of the same study, which is published in respected journals, under the business as usual scenario, to give you a feeling, that is the coolest years that will be at the end of the century will be significantly warmer than the hottest years we have seen in the reference, the recent years at the beginning of this century. Incomprehensible, not understandable what will mean, is just something we don't want to face. Now, as Minister Cadiz already explained and detailed, the government of Cyprus heeded the call of the scientific international community and decided to take the very bold step, a grand challenge, to coordinate our region, the countries of our region, in a concerted action to accelerate the adherence to the stipulations of the Paris Agreement, and even more probably important in terms of results, to address the amelioration measures, adaptation measures of the climate crisis that is evolving right now, expected to intensify. 13 task forces were formed, 240 scientists, primarily regional, but from international organizations and worldwide, have worked for 2 years to scope, understand the situation, model the forecasted difficulties, and propose measures and policies to address them. The mandate to the task forces, which worked for the last 2 years, was to collect and organize existing knowledge in order to assess the current situation, identify gaps in understanding, gaps in research and policy, and based on that, provide a toolkit and an organized, assembled set of actions and measures to address the climate crisis, which in effect proposes technologically mature, affordable solutions for addressing impacts on climate change in the different sectors, ranging from agriculture to tourism, from sea level rise to the effects of greening the economy. These reports were presented and reported, as was already mentioned, by the President of the Republic and many other speakers that already mentioned this work last October in an international conference. Here is a picture from the conference, and you see many already worldwide leaders, including the architect of the Paris Agreement and other personalities that validated and endorsed the recommendations of the task forces. This is a very bleak transparency because it summarizes the findings of the scientific workforce that address these issues. There are primarily gaps and shortages, but it should be viewed with a positive outlook, because the conclusion is that now we have identified the gaps, we are also proposing ways to address them. The situation, as already said, for climate crisis is bad and is worsening. Business as usual scenario is just not realistic. It's a collapse. No adaptation would be possible. We have data, but we need a lot more. We need higher quality, more specific data per sector if we're going to design effective, scientifically, technologically validated solutions. Better data, better modeling, better understanding will lead to less expensive and more effective solutions. The national funding for research that will aid this is not adequate to do this job. The funding is low and incommensurate to the challenges we face, needs to be increased. There is insufficient utilization of enabling technologies ranging from digitalization to remote sensing, which is available but is underutilized. There is near to complete absence of regional collaborative research. There is a lot of duplication and therefore a lot of inefficiency in research, also in projects and policy. Generally, we are unprepared as a collective assembly of nations of this region to face the challenge that is with us already. The clock is ticking. We need to move fast, and regional collaboration, which is the answer to that, is anemic and badly needed. Hopefully, this initiative is the beginning of intense, vigorous collaboration to augment other initiatives that already are planned or in way. The scientists proposed literally hundreds of measures, but they can be grouped. Some of them are overlapping. They have been organized, because otherwise it's hard to utilize them, in 6 thrusts. Research thrust, what we need to understand better in order to devise more effective policies. We need observations. More observations are needed, are necessary for detailed modeling. Without observations, the uncertainties of modeling are far bigger and will be costly in doing the wrong measures. Biodiversity is a big concern. Already it's a problem and is exacerbated by climate change. Climate Services Hub needs to be instituted. That can be seen as a portal to how to access all this know-how and derive recommendations, commission studies for specific problems. This can be done by governments, regional authorities, local communities, private sector. This needs to be organized, and there are measures to do that. Likewise, it's a challenge, and it can be done. So we have innovation, green development to emerge out of this major initiative and transform this from a challenge to a tool of development. And necessary to complement that is education and outreach, keep our people not only informed, make them champions of this bold initiative. Another way to view the organization of the proposed policies and measures is to classify them in this fashion. Namely, we have adaptation. This is addressing the risks that have been identified, how we know that sea level will be rising, rainfall will be diminished, forest fires will increase. These are the risks, and propose measures, policies to minimize the impact of these effects. That's adaptation. On the other hand, we have mitigation. As we have seen, we are emitting lots of greenhouse gases, which make the situation worse. Therefore, it's an obligation, if you wish, to the Paris Agreement, and that is a different grouping of measures. Finally, there is enabling or capacity building measures that will make adaptation and mitigation actions easier, less costly, and more effective. And from that, the policies and measures can be distinguished either as projects or as services. Let me sum with these general comments. Let me give you, in the remaining few minutes I have, some examples, so I make it complete and not so theoretical. Take observations. On the left pane, you see with the dots, the bigger, the more it measures the effect of emissions, CO2. And this actually visually shows that our region is as big, as I already gave in numbers, emitter as the European Union. If you look on the right side, you see a big difference. European Union countries, in total, they collaborate with a big network of observations, so they know how things evolve, they know the magnitude, and this is not only useful to see where it's happening and the intensity, it's a crucial tool to understand where these effects are coming from, which are the easiest and least expensive to address, and therefore make the mitigation program less costly. So observations, standardized, of high quality, embedded in international networks, is a crucial element that will benefit everybody, especially if there is data sharing and easy access. This you have seen before. It's part of the work that was done in preparation for by the scientific forces, is detailed modeling. This was very expensive modeling, uses literally hundreds of hours on supercomputers, and data are fed into it to make sure that the modeling is reliable. And therefore, this is another example of collaborative research. We have duplication. Each country is trying to model its own little area, little in respect with the climate scale, which is much bigger than the artificial lines drawn on a map. Climate does not respect those. So we need regional detailed modeling. And as it says in a star note at the bottom of the transparency, this study has produced and is available country by country detailed modeling, and season by season, how it looks in the winter, how it looks in the summer, not only for temperature, but also for rainfall. This has to be brought to the next level, hopefully detailed mapping year by year, kilometer by kilometer. We need this if we're going to address, let's say, agriculture challenges, forest fire. This modeling is essential, and there is every reason to do it in a cooperative manner, all the countries in the area. Let me give you another example already mentioned, and very glad to hear the strong endorsement from United States of transboundary mitigation and adaptation, actually, action. Energy interconnections, I would say energy is not only electricity, of course. Energy is gas, it's other, in the future, hydrogen, and so on. So energy interconnections are missing, badly needed, will allow penetration of renewables. It's a major, and it will allow more solar energy and wind energy to be inserted if we have these interconnections. So it's a precondition for that. And it will reduce greenhouse gases. It will allow higher penetration of renewables and so on. There is also other initiatives. I would like to highlight the very visionary and award-winning Green Blue Deal proposed by the EcoPeace organization, Palestinian, Jordanian, Israeli, for sharing, exchanging, so it's interconnection, electricity and desalinated water between Jordan, Palestinian Authority, and Israel. There are some interconnections, electrical in this case. There is this network which is connecting Turkey, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Jordan, Egypt, and Libya. But if you see the magnitude of interconnections, which is not actually utilized to its full, is minuscule. It looks nice, but if you see the forecasted power that can be shared, it's typically the size of one major turbine in the generation of electricity in these countries. So it's not up to the job. Likewise, the Gulf cooperation grid interconnection, which is also underutilized, it's there. But again, if you look at the magnitudes, it's typically hundreds of kilowatts, hundreds of megawatts, which is, again, minuscule to the challenge. Dr. Livingstone mentioned the Eurasia interconnector, which is funded now to the next stage, which is 2 gigawatts, is becoming substantial. It's actually 2 gigawatts is the size of the electric system of Cyprus. So it's becoming to be of the right size, connecting Israel, Cyprus, and Greece, and the Euro-Africa interconnector connecting Europe via Cyprus, Egypt, Cyprus, Greece. So there are plans. We need far more to be effective. The adaptation action, another issue is that I would like to highlight, is the addressing of forest fires. We in Cyprus and Greece have worked recently on developing an integrated forest fire scientific plan. We have to move and see implementation from minimizing occurrence, good planning, to minimize occurrence, to modeling how it will evolve. This is very challenging program. Share resources for combating it and managing post-fire issues. For example, using drones, satellite observations to augment visual observations to detect as early as possible the startup and evolution through modeling of prevailing weather conditions to address the evolution, share firefighting equipment between neighboring countries, modeling presumably along the very successful Eurorescue program in our region to address these menace. Finally, solar desalination. We are going to be short of water. the existing desalination schemes, which are getting prevalent in the area, we are the biggest area in need and utilization of desalination, is very electricity intensive, typically produced by fossil fuels. There are technologies today to go solar to desalination. Here is a pilot plant using the latest technology, forward osmosis, for example, very recent development in technology. It's there, we should utilize it. It's a big challenge, both for our cities, but in the future for our agriculture. So, concluding, we need to move. We have the know-how, we have solutions. Some of them are really mature and available, but are not being to use. Some are evolving. We need to move to implementation. So with this, I would like to say, yes, the scientific community has done a lot of work. There is a lot to be made to make it more effective, but we are ready, especially sector by sector, to identify available solutions that can be put to practice as of tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Papanikolas, for summarizing the work of the scientific task forces and also introducing these projects that can be either implemented or enhanced in our region. We will now continue with the second presentation of this session, which will provide an overview of the proposed structure of the regional action plan and will be presented by Professor Thanasis Hatzilakos, who is an adjunct professor at the Cyprus Institute. Thank you for joining us, Professor Hatzilakos.
Good morning. Please allow me to address you as dear colleagues, from a concerned scientist to fellow concerned policymakers. I'm very sorry to be addressing you over the internet indirectly, and I do hope to meet you in person in June. I shall be presenting to you what I believe you have already seen in the relative background paper, the proposed structure and content of the Regional Action Plan. These two words, action and plan, have been pivotal. The initiative is about action, not only words, but equally it's about planning, long-term, collaboratively. This slide is the summary of the whole presentation. The purpose of the action plan is to take the scientific result of the task forces, the measure and policy recommendations, organized into a toolkit and transform them into services and projects. Allow me to correct myself. It's about keep transforming them through a collaborative process. So please remember that the plan is not just a list, it is a process. This is the raw content. Hundreds of suggested, recommended measures and policies from the 13 task forces. Things like have a plan for buildings from the Built Environment Task Force, or adapt existing learning resources to enhance natural curricula taught in schools from the Education and Outreach Task Force, or apply conservation agriculture such as minimum tilling and crop rotation from the Agriculture and Food Chain Task Force. They are scientifically sound, technologically mature, and economically feasible suggestions prepared by scientists from the region having our region in mind. Professor Papanikolas has shown you this diagram. This is how we propose to organize the hundreds of measures and policies suggested. Policies and measures belong to priority areas, and it will be important to select the priority areas that will be our regional initiative priority areas. And each country can decide those priority areas that it wants to get involved, to adopt or not some of the policies, to implement or not some of the measures, to employ selected services, and to participate in particular projects of its choice. Examples of adaptation risks, priority areas could be sea level rising, water scarcity, food scarcity, biodiversity loss, and forest fires. Examples of mitigation could be our obligation priority areas, greenhouse gas emissions reduction and solar energy production. Whereas measures can be of various types, and particularly important are those enabling or capacity building, monitoring the greenhouse gas emissions, climate modeling, observation, data gathering and sharing, and climate services. The risks are either natural, such as sea level rising and heat waves, droughts, or social risks, wood scarcity, food scarcity, which are also in the action plan in structured mode. Some of them cause the others. Heat waves create favorable conditions for forest fires, or hierarchical water scarcity may be the root for agricultural problems, hence food scarcity, hence economic devastation, hence climate-related migration. We have a suggestion about priority areas, which is to be discussed, please comment, and to be updated according to interest. So we would like to know what are each country's priority areas that you think are also regional, like clean energy at affordable competitive prices, or threat to coastal systems due to sea level rise. The policies and measures in the plan are not just a sentence, are not just a title. They are described with several attributes in detail, their objectives, impact, and territory of application. They are linked to goals, measures, broader initiatives, and sustainable development goals. And they are flagged with timing, preconditions, and implementation issues. Allow me to give you a couple of examples to show you the depth to which the action plan has gone and will go with our collaboration and common work. We know that greenhouse gas emission monitoring is a national Paris Agreement obligation. However, this carbon accounting, which is not just CO2, but all greenhouse gases, is supposed to be done following IPCC guidelines based on national statistics from several sectors: energy, industrial processes, agriculture, as well as product use and waste. For countries with little previous experience, it can be confusing, and without special technical expertise, the results can be uncertain, to say the least. This would be the bottom-up approach. But new methodologies have appeared, a top-down methodology based on ground-based remote sensing, satellite observations, and computer-based inverse modeling. In this way, we can provide information for tuning and verification, carbon inventory builders, industry, and sub-state governmental entities, such as megacities. So one of the recommended measures that has been described as a project is to monitor, report, and verify national greenhouse emissions. And the important thing is that the result of this project would be a service based on local people with much less dependence on international experts. So this is a fully fledged technical proposition, several pages long, with concrete technical and economic descriptions. This is another example that has to do with monitoring of long-lived and short-lived climate forces. By establishing an observation network, you saw in the previous presentation how the observation network in our region is much less than what we have in Europe. Again, this is not simply about installing and using technology. It is about research, technology development, and technology transfer, so that at the completion of the project, there will be a service running. This is why we talk about projects and services by local scientists and technicians on site. I don't expect you to read this slide. This is just meant as a picture to show you the necessary detail in which the action plan will go and has already gone in some of these areas where we would like, again, your input to make it regionally and nationally relevant. Here is a totally different example. It's an example from our education and outreach thrust. It talks about graduate courses in atmospheric research becoming courses for scientific personnel, for researchers, engineers, scientists, teachers, managers, opinion leaders. And again, it's not only at the level of curriculum description. We have already learning resources, and the proposal is to go to a group of regional universities and make them open educational resources in languages of request so that it can serve the regional initiative. The title of the presentation is Content, Structure, and Development of the Regional Action Plan. The process of developing the action plan is just as important as the content. To be implemented, it must ensure ownership by the participating countries. The process will be a continuing consultation among the shareholders, which are, of course, the countries, but not only. Important shareholders include companies, citizens, civic organizations, and local government. This consultation has already started with the task forces, the 240 scientists from the region. It should continue with working groups, standing committees, ministerial meetings such as ours now, summits, etc. It will result in an action plan that will change over time, depending on the dynamics of the climate crisis and the local situation in our region. This would be broad, inclusive, dynamic, flexible, and open. And developed in this way, it will have several dimensions: the socio-political, the very important legal and economic one, and technical and administrative dimensions in order to ensure the implementation. It will include specific, usually long-term projects and concrete institutionalized frameworks that would lead to services. Each of them promoted by several countries, not necessarily all those who select to participate in each project and service, but open to the others. It will also have a timeline, risk analysis, and very importantly, a monitoring mechanism and concrete implementation steps and activities. In the previous presentation, we have seen some of the risks. Well, the action plan supports the initiative by enhancing the social awareness through the education and outreach pillar of the policy framework. And in this way, it will deal with the fact that we are generally unprepared to face the challenge. It will deepen and advance scientific knowledge through research, technology, observation networks, and modeling, and thus deal with inadequate specific quality data and insufficient utilization of digitization and enabling technologies. It will help to obtain all kinds of needed resources, technological, human, legal, managerial, and financial, and thus address the low level of national and regional funding for climate research. And by our collective regional presence, along with sound monitoring, it will reassure the funders with our enhanced credibility. So the action plan will start with implementing well-known solutions to well-known problems. And through observing, obtaining data, researching and designing and developing technologies, it will scale R&D into implementation. so that the action plan will need to new solutions, as our ability to mitigate the evolving climate crisis and adapt to the consequences in our region is advancing. Thank you very much. I am really looking forward to meeting you in person in Cyprus in June.
Thank you, Professor Hatzilakos, for the detailed outline of the proposed regional action plan. The third and final presentation of this session will discuss the proposed governance, monitoring, and financing of the regional action plan in order to be able to start its implementation. For this presentation, we have here with us Dr. Theodulos Mesimeris, Senior Environment Officer and Head of the Climate Action and Energy Unit at the Department of Environment of the Ministry of Agriculture, Rural Development and Environment of Cyprus. The floor is yours, Dr. Mesimeris.
Your Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, distinguished guests, good morning. In this session of the meeting, I will present you our proposal regarding the needed implementing tools of the climate change initiative for our region, the governance, monitoring, and financing. Before presenting our proposal about the governance, monitoring, and financing, we would like first to share with you our understanding that the proposed initiative will provide the maximum flexibility for participating countries to join institutional structures, policies, and measures of their own choice under some key principles. First of all, the participation of each state to our initiative is without prejudice to issues of state recognition, cooperation in any other areas, or solution to any other disputes. Each state has its own national plans for the climate crisis, including its own national determined contribution towards emission reduction and its own national adaptation plan. Actions and measures taken under the initiative are expected to complement these national plans, render them more effective and more affordable. Each state selects when, where, and how to participate and contribute. And finally, the overall governance of the initiative will be based on the principles of United Nations. For the climate change initiative to become operational, to make effective use of the available resources, ensure timely and highly quality implementation, and to ensure continuity and sustainability, a governing scheme is proposed, respecting the principles and the regional sensitivities. For these reasons, we have proposed a federated structure. A regional secretariat and country offices will be formed. All participating countries will be equally represented in the regional secretariat, the central guiding body of the initiative. The managerial structure will include the regional secretariat and country offices. Non-interference to national policies and decisions. The participating countries respect the overall objectives of the initiative, but not any specific policies and measures. They participate in selected institutional structures, policies, and measures for their choice. Partial participation of those willing to each activity and open to later additions. And finally, we intend our initiative to provide a voluntary complementary mechanism to advance implementation of the Paris Agreement in an efficient and cost-effective way. A possible proposed structure scheme could be comprised of 3 administrative structures as a full scheme of governance at the mature stage: the country offices, the regional secretariat, and the governing council. As a starting step, and in order to have an effective and rapid launch, an interim regional secretariat could be hosted at the Cyprus Institute, which has coordinated the scientific work of the thematic task forces. The full management structure will be shaped and refined based on the experience and the needs that will become apparent during the launching phase. The country offices. They will be established by all countries participating in the initiative. They will have the important function of connecting the Council and the Secretariat to their respective government and the designated stakeholders in the country in which they reside. In addition, each country office will be charged with several functions, including the participation in the development of the action plan, monitoring the effectiveness of policies and measures undertaken by the initiative and in which the given country is participating, the quality and timely execution of initiative projects pursued in a given country, and assume the leadership coordination of given trust policies projects for the entire initiative. The Secretariat is envisioned to manage and coordinate directorates or departments that will support at first 6 main pillars for policy measure design, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. These first pillars include the climate services, the observation network, the research and coordination, the outreach and education campaign, biodiversity plan, and innovation and green development. Some functions of the Secretariat could include facilitate and support, i.e. the operations of the Governing Council of the initiative and obtaining finance, coordinate the coherence and effectiveness of actions taken in the various policy trusts and in the countries of the initiative, the transnational project of the initiative, the sharing of information, financing, investing resources, and the activities of the country of offices. Initiate projects, especially of transnational nature and institutions, and monitor the effectiveness of policies and measures undertaken by the initiative and the quality and timely execution of projects pursued under its auspices. The Governing Council is envisioned to be the supreme governing body. Each participating country of the initiative will be represented by a senior government official, presumably at the ministerial level. It is envisioned that the Governing Council will set the policy targets for the initiative, approve its rolling plan of action, and evaluate and adjust accordingly the structure of its executive arm, the Secretariat, and the coordination among the country offices. Going to the monitoring. Monitoring can be distinguished in 4 monitoring categories. The first one, monitoring the progress of the initiative. This is a task for the participating states. It should be the responsibility of the Governing Council based on a yearly status report by the Secretariat using the country offices' yearly activity reports. The second one is about monitoring the climate crisis. This is a scientific task of the initiative. It will be primarily the task of the observation network of the initiative and will result in a related service at the Climate Services Hub. It is an ongoing concern and hopefully will become part of the IPCC and the COP mechanism of the UNFCCC. The third one is about monitoring adherence to the Paris Agreement. This is an issue concerning the individual states as signatories to the agreement. The initiative can only have an auxiliary role upon request by individual states. And the last one is about monitoring specific projects and services. The initiative will adopt and adhere to international standards, metrics, and indicators for each project and service launch. Where appropriate, it will also establish regional ones, adopting internationally accepted process, including internal and external auditing, financial accountability, and oversight will make the initiative credible and therefore more attractive to potential international funders. Going to the financing. Financing of the initiative refers to financing of two categories. The initiative itself, secretariat and country offices, and the financing for the project and services for the policies and measures on mitigation and adaptation. Although the first category is small compared to the second, it is very important for launching the initiative, and it appears reasonable to expect that funding for it will come from the participating countries. At a later stage, a percentage of management overheads from the project and services can be justified for financing the initiative mechanism. The funding sources. The funding sources for the project and services of our initiative are expected to come from the participating countries, the international banks and other funding agencies, and institutional, governmental, and private donors directly or through banks and agencies. A list of some financing instrument is presented in the annex of the background paper that we have already circulated. Co-funding. Co-funding is a key element for the appropriate implementation of our initiative. We all know that Paris Agreement makes a distinction between countries that are entitled to international donations as a means of funding climate change actions and those which are expected to find the funding themselves, the developing countries and the developed countries, Tier A and Tier B countries. In our region, there is a mix of both types of countries, and the initiative will follow in its decision-making this Paris Agreement and UNFCCC distinction. The need for international funding of climate change mitigation and adaptation actions is well known and accepted. The will for such funding on the part of the developed richer nations, including the EU, has also been clearly expressed, although the amount promised has not been delivered in full so far. However, the amounts delivered have not been spent. One reason for that is the lack of transparent, credible, and reliable monitoring mechanism that will assure donors that resources will be well spent and according to the contracts agreed. Establishing the procedures and mechanisms that will ensure transparency, efficiency of execution, and credibility will be a major result of our initiative. In addition, the coordinated monitoring will bring not only economies of scale, but also reliability. Regional funding. The need for regional funding is internationally acknowledged, given that climate change impacts manifest themselves in distinct geographical areas, not respecting national boundaries. However, there are few established conduits for transnational funding matched to the climate change requirements. Our initiative aspires, and it is necessary to become such a conduit, such a channel. Before closing, I would like to remind you that we have already sent specific questions to initiate the discussion. And I would like to refresh you about these two questions. The first one is about the comments on the proposed architecture of the governance, monitoring, and financing of the regional action plan. And the last one is about the national experience that you see for to be included in our governance, monitoring, financing of the regional action plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mesimeris, for the detailed description of the various items needed for further implementation. We are now concluding this session with the three presentations. I would like to thank all of our presenters. Before we proceed with our short break, I would like to remind you of the questions you would you will be called to address during your interventions. In regards to the proposed structure of the regional action plan, the first question is, please provide your comment on the proposed structure and content of the action plan. And secondly, on the basis of your national experiences, what policies and measures do you consider to be priorities to be put in place at the regional level in pursuing collaboratively with other EME countries? In terms of the proposed governance, monitoring and financing of the regional action plan, Dr. Mesimeris has just mentioned the questions, so I will not be repeating. For your convenience, we will be uploading these questions as well as the three presentations from this last session on the chat of the online platform that we are using. And once more, I would like to invite you right now. I would like to invite the minister or government representatives to finalize their intervention based on these presentations, as well as the material that was sent ahead of time. Thank you very, very much. And we will resume in about 21 minutes at 12:20. Thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Thank you for joining us again for this afternoon session. During this session, we will discuss the proposed structure of the Regional Action Plan, as well as the proposed governance, monitoring, and financing of the initiative. We will have interventions from ministers from the region and their representatives. And after the statements, we would like to invite any other observers who wish to comment. First, we will have the intervention of His Excellency Dr. Christos Stylianidis, Minister of Climate Crisis and Civil Protection of the Hellenic Republic. Dr. Stylianidis, welcome.
Dear President of the Republic of Cyprus, dear colleagues, I'm really pleased to be part of the ministerial meeting of the Cyprus Government Initiative for coordinating climate change actions in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Middle East. An initiative putting forward the need for a coordinated action to confront the climate crisis. I would like to thank the government of Cyprus and the Minister of Agriculture, Rural Development and Environment, Mr. Kostas Kadis, for his invitation and for giving me the opportunity to address you. Dear colleagues, climate crisis is definitely one of the biggest challenges today. For some of the scientific community, the biggest. We are already experiencing its devastating consequences. No doubt it affects not only the environment, but the worldwide economy, our health, our everyday lives, and of course, our common future. The extreme weather phenomena we are experiencing more and more often make one thing clear, absolutely clear. Climate crisis is a fact. Dear colleagues, we need to act now. We need to take initiatives to enhance our resilience and adaptability to this new huge challenge. But we have to act together. We have to join forces because climate change knows no borders. It is a global challenge with regional characteristics, regardless that not all regions are affected in the same way or to the same extent. Our wider neighborhood, the Eastern Mediterranean and the Middle East, is already experiencing the impacts of climate crisis. Impact that, if we don't act now, will become more and more severe. It is therefore urgent for our countries to collaborate, to create synergies. Initiatives like the one today by the Cyprus government adds value to this common purpose. Through this initiative, we can create a framework of cooperation and knowledge exchange at the regional level, a framework fully aligned with the Paris Agreement and the EU Green Deal, no doubt about this. And of course, the Greek government and me personally fully support this initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, the regional action plan will be a multiplier factor to our efforts. No doubt, it can give us the framework to accelerate our country's mitigation and adaptation efforts. At the end of the day, to achieve our common goals faster. For the Greek government, tackling climate change is a priority, top priority. Prime Minister Mitsotakis' decision to establish an autonomous ministry for climate crisis and seal protection is a clear proof of this. Cooperation at all levels, international, European, regional, national, is at the core of our approach because climate change is a complex issue. It requires a holistic approach. It requires multilateral synergies on every area of the economy and society. Dear friends, as I already said, Greece is fully committed to enhancing national and regional resilience to climate change. The first national climate law will be debated in the Greek parliament, and we are looking forward to start working with all the other states of the Eastern Mediterranean and the Middle East to this end, to this dimension. I wish you a fruitful meeting. We are really looking forward to taking together the next steps towards a more sustainable future for our region, for our planet. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Minister Stylianidis. We will now continue with the intervention from the United Arab Emirates, which coincidentally is the country which will be organizing not the next, but the second to the next COP or the UN Summit for the Climate, COP28 in 2023. For this intervention, it is my pleasure to welcome the Honorable Minister, Mrs. Mariam Al-Muhairi, Minister of Climate Change and Environment of the United Arab Emirates. Welcome.
Mr. President, Excellencies, dear colleagues and partners, on behalf of the UAE, I express our sincere appreciation to the government of Cyprus for launching this crucial initiative that plays an important role in driving climate action in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Middle East. We are honored to be a member. I also thank His Excellency Professor Kadis for inviting me to participate in this ministerial meeting. The UAE is a member of the technical working group of the initiative, and thanks to this, we have experienced productive collaboration with many of you. Last year, we announced the UAE Net Zero by 2050 strategic initiative, and we are working to reduce emissions across all sectors. We have enjoyed learning from your experience in this area and others, sharing our expertise and best practices exploring our similarities and differences, and looking for the best ways to overcome common challenges together. As we are aware, climate models consistently show that our region is becoming drier and hotter, and that the intensity and duration of extreme heat waves will continue to increase in the next decades. To address these negative impacts and prevent them from worsening, our initiative aims to develop the strategic plan for climate change cooperation based on science and effective policies. I'm confident the plan will go a long way in helping us enhance our climate change mitigation and adaptation capabilities. The findings of our task forces to date show that climate action in the region would benefit from establishing a unified, enabling framework for green innovation and investment. As we know very well from our own experience, when policymakers listen to scientists, it leads to tangible results and well-informed policies, which are the foundations for success. The momentum is real. However, we need to translate it into concrete actions, and this meeting brings us one step closer to our goal. We must work together to finalize and implement our common strategic plan so that we can scale up and accelerate collective climate action across our region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Al-Muhairi. Thank you for your intervention. We will have with us next Honorable Minister Mrs. Tamar Zandberg, Minister of Environmental Protection from the State of Israel. Thank you very much for joining us in this forum. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm very pleased to see here Professor Kostas Kadis, Minister of Agriculture, Rural Development and Environment of the Republic of Cyprus, and also my friend, Minister Her Excellency Mariam El-Mahiri, both friends and colleagues that I met in the last few months discussing these specific issues that I'm very glad that we have this chance to cooperate on that. Distinguished ministers and delegates, the IPCC report published in August 2021 stressed that we have a very narrow window of opportunity to act to limit temperature rise to 1.5 degrees and to build resilience against unavoidable changes. An urgent action is needed, and it is especially true in our region that has a significant part in this regard. The Eastern Mediterranean and the Middle East region is recognized as a global climate hotspot and is most threatened by climate change effect. At the same time, the region plays an important political, economic, and cultural role in the international arena. Moreover, the next two climate change conferences, the next two COPs, will take place here in our region, COP27 in Egypt and COP28 in the UAE. And in this light, the Cypriot initiative of coordinating climate change actions in the Eastern Mediterranean and Middle East is very timely and very important. My congratulations to the President of the Republic of Cyprus for initiating this regional process that Israel is proud to participate. Finding solutions and strengthening regional climate resilience require that we come together across sectors, borders, and nationalities, across academia, policy, and industry, and across governments, civil society, and international institutions. By combining our expertise, our experience, and an entrepreneurial spirit, the countries of the region can share the knowledge and the technologies that we already possess and develop groundbreaking solutions that will improve the lives of billions of people in our region and around the world. Israel, home to hundreds of cutting-edge startups and world-leading research centers focused on arid environment, and is well known for its integrated water resource management, including desalination, is committed to promoting such cross-sector and cross-border cooperations. I find the Cypriot-led regional initiative on climate change very important and a very important platform for such cooperation. The proposed structure of regional action plan seemed workable and very important. I suggest that we encourage the participation of municipalities and regional entities that have an essential role in implementing the adaptation plan. I also suggest collaborating with regional institutions such as the International Renewable Energy Agency located in the UAE, and also water organizations in our region, in many countries. And I think we have a very good platform to bring in all sectors and all governments, even those that are not regularly used to cooperating. Also important is the cooperation with international bodies such as the UN and the European Union, which has already declared their willingness to increase their support for green transition and sustainable development in the region as part of their new external policy. I would like to conclude by expressing my sincere appreciation to the government of the Republic of Cyprus for initiating this regional effort and the regional initiative, and for organizing this ministerial conference. I wish we could meet in person, but we have some other crises on the table. The Israeli Ministry of Environment Protection and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs are willing to play an active role and to further support and provide our assistance and our involvement for the success of this regional climate initiative. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for this intervention. So next, we would like to welcome the representation of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. As of our last communication, unfortunately, His Excellency Dr. Muawiyeh Radaide, the Minister of Environment of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, was unable to attend this afternoon session, and therefore I believe we have his representatives here with us. I would like to welcome Dr. Jihad Sawawid, Ministry Advisor, as well as Dr. Belal Shkarin, Director of Climate Change Directorate. As we are not sure that you are within our panelists, we would like to kindly ask you right now to raise your hand so that you can give us your statement. Will you please accept joining the panel? Oh, hi, welcome.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to mention that His Excellency Dr. Muawiyeh Radaide, the Minister of Environment of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, extends his warm regards and appreciation to Cyprus government for this important initiative. His Excellency was with us this morning during the opening session, but unfortunately he had to leave to attend an urgent meeting, so he extends his warm regards to you and appreciation. As for and he also looks forward to any future meetings that you will be attending regarding this important initiative. As for Jordan, we always, as you know, welcome regional cooperation to address common challenges. And this is clear from the fact that Jordan is part of the regional cooperation platforms, such as the UFM platform, as an example, where Jordan represents the co-presidency of the Southern and East Mediterranean countries. You know, as for Jordan's efforts with regard to climate action, Jordan has actually updated its nationally determined contributions, raising its ambition to 31% reduction in its greenhouse gases compared to 14% that was actually included in the previous document. We have also the NDC action plan with defined and clear projects, as well as we also have our Green Growth National Action Plan that actually has 86 actions, whether in terms of environment enabling actions for transition towards green growth, or as investment projects. So we look forward for this cooperation, and we welcome this cooperation, and thank you very much. Thank you.
For your intervention, and we'd also like to thank the Minister for being with us this morning. Now, next, I would like to welcome back Minister Dr. Yasmin Fouad, the Minister of Environment of the Arab Republic of Egypt, for her further comments and intervention based on the questions posed.
In that regard, and after looking at the action plans that will be discussed today, there are some key messages that are very important to be highlighted and would act as points for discussion throughout the day. It's really important to provide the support needed to scientific policy and economic studies, with a special focus on mainstreaming climate change to ensure the sound-based proposed outcomes. Also, looking at the roadmap on how the way forward and how to involve a multi-stakeholder process approach where development partners, international organizations, local communities, people, and all other segments are part of that process to ensure the ownership, the collective ownership to face the impact of climate change. Thirdly, there should be a specific attention to the financial mechanism to that action plan. Where would be climate finance would be a target? How can we ensure different modalities of climate finance? How can we build more partnerships with the private sector, involvement of the NGOs, as well as the research institution? All that would need financial resources that need to be an integral part of our action plan to resolve the challenges that faces our region. Finally, I would like to reiterate my thanks and my appreciation to my fellow colleague, the Minister of Cyprus, for all the hard work that has taken place all over last year, and for convening that meeting in a very critical timing at the ministerial level and at the expert level to further discuss, but also find solutions to problems that face our region. And please rest assured that Egypt, in its capacity as part of the Mediterranean and as part of the African and the Arab country, but also as the upcoming host of the COP27, would provide all the support needed to support a collective action towards mitigating climate change and adapting to its adverse impact on its community. May all our community and humanity be always safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Fouad. We will continue next and give the floor to His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Mubarak bin Daina, Special Envoy for Climate Affairs and Chief Executive of the Supreme Council for the Environment in the Kingdom of Bahrain.
My name is Luma Al-Mahrous. I'm Director for Environmental Monitoring and Protection. I would like to convey the apologies for Dr. Mohammed bin Daina, who couldn't be with us today for some urgent issues. I would like to convey our thanks from the Kingdom of Bahrain for the government of Cyprus for taking the initiative and putting this tremendous efforts that reflected by the presentations that were generously shared with us today. In terms of our priorities in the Kingdom of Bahrain, we are, as has been announced in COP26 by His Royal Highness, Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa during the Crown Prince, during the COP26 in Glasgow. We are committed to some initiatives, basically reaching net zero by 2060, reducing greenhouse gases by 30% by the year 2035, and doubling the sustainable energy goals, which has been announced earlier. It will be doubled by year 2035, and 30% doubling of trees and quadrupling the mangroves to absorb all the greenhouse gases. So all the priorities that will lay with those targets that our kingdom is looking for, we are into it, and in addition to all the other priorities. I have a small comment just regarding the governance side and the monitoring. I think if it has been unified based to a certain model, so that we are all looking on the same indicators and looking on one methodology for monitoring, so that we will get unified reports at the end. But overall, I would like to thank the government of Cyprus, and thank you for giving us this opportunity to share our thoughts with you.
With us, we're sorry that the minister wasn't able to join us, but we really, really appreciate your intervention. Next, I would like to invite the representative of the Sultanate of Oman, His Excellency Engineer Naif Ali Al-Abri, CEO of the Civil Aviation Authority of Oman. Again, if you're with us and you're not one of our panelists, I would like to kindly ask you to raise your hand so that we can make you a panelist. Please bear with us for a few seconds until this is arranged. It seems that we are the representative from Oman is not here. We will come back to you. Please, if you are with us, please let us know and we'll get back to you for later on. Then we will continue with the comments from His Excellency Mr. Riyad Attari, Minister of Agriculture, Rural Development and Environment of the State of Palestine. I'm not sure if the minister is here or we have a representative. Please let us know so that you can become one of our panelists. Thank you. Hi, welcome.
Thank you very much. My name is Yaqub Al-Kilani. I'm General Director for Agricultural Water and Irrigation at Ministry of Agriculture, Palestine. And I'm representing His Excellency Riyad Al-Attari in this ministerial meeting. And it's my pleasure to convey his greeting and appreciation for the Cyprus government and their invitation to join and participating in this meeting. Actually, Palestine is one of the basic countries in the region that has been affected with the impact of climatic change as well as other countries. Palestine will be ready to be an effective member in all scope of the work regarding strategies, policies, action plans related to these initiatives. We are strongly support this initiative and we will go ahead with all partners until achieving its goals. The state of Palestine highly interested in both of governance and monitoring financing of the regional action plan and the proposed structure of the regional action plan, especially that they align with our NDC's implementation action plans and development needs, but to ensure the clarity and coherence regarding the presentation of Palestinian priorities, which has been presented, we want to ask you to give us time to review what has been presented with our partners at national scale, because this is the first meeting that Palestine joining and participating in this meeting, in this ministerial meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody, for participating, for offering your thoughts on this very important for our region matter. I would like now to give the floor once more to His Excellency Professor Cadiz, Minister of Agriculture, Rural Development and Environment of the Republic of Cyprus, for his closing remarks in order for us to conclude this important event.
Your Excellencies, dear ministers, distinguished guests, let me thank you very much for your active and fruitful participation in today's meeting. We would like to thank all the participating countries and observers for their contribution today. Special thanks also to the European Commission and its expressed support for our initiative and its implementation, the Union for the Mediterranean for their readiness for cooperating with us on this endeavor, the World Meteorological Organization for the valuable analysis and data, and the United States government for expressing their enthusiasm for the potential of our initiative in the region. It is worth highlighting, among others, the position of the United States government regarding a key project for the region aiming at addressing the climate change challenges, which is the connecting electricity cable Eurasia. Through this kind of projects, our region could further advance its contribution for reducing greenhouse gas emission, further penetration of renewables, and energy security. Many thanks also to COP26 and COP27 presidencies for expressing their willingness to support regional initiatives such as the one that contribute to address the climate change issue, also not only in the UNFCCC platform. The main goal of the meeting was to present and discuss the progress of the Eastern Mediterranean and Middle East Climate Change Initiative, in particular the results of the scientific task forces, the structure and content of the Climate Change Regional Action Plan, and the governance, monitoring, and financing of the initiative. We had proposed that we could, in principle, agree on the fundamentals, and it seems that we do. I shall summarize the main points around which I trust there is some consensus among us, followed by what I propose to be the next steps and the timeline for them. The reports of the scientific task forces were very well received. They should now be studied by expert policymakers for each country and evaluated, taking into consideration the national plans.
Feedback.
The executive summaries have been published and are at your disposal, both electronically and printed. You will soon have access to the full reports. The proposed structure of the action plan seems to be agreeable to all, as it includes mitigation priority obligations and goals, adaptation risk priority areas, suggested policies and measures, which lead to projects and services. The examples presented were relevant to the regional needs. We have to further refine the action plan to determine the priority areas that we shall be working on based on the suggestions you have also made today, and to select projects and services to be prepared, such as monitoring emissions, setting up a climate observations regional network, initiating an educational and outreach campaign, or detecting methane leaks. This will be our main task from now until our June in-person ministerial meeting. You can expect to have a first detailed draft of the action plan at the beginning of April, on which we would like your comments by the beginning of May, so we can incorporate them for the June meeting. Our proposal for governance looks in general agreeable. The new ideas and proposals from the discussion will be incorporated into the new background papers that will be distributed. We shall continue to use the services of the Cyprus Institute as a role of interim secretariat until the governance scheme develops to maturity, but we are looking forward to discussions about the beginning of collaboration among country offices. There was not much discussion about monitoring. I do take this as a sign of agreement, as we all acknowledge how important reliable and transparent monitoring is in order to secure and utilize the necessary co-financing of our planned activities, which was the last element of our presentations and discussion. I would like to point out that we expect our Eastern Mediterranean and Middle East Climate Crisis Initiative to attract not only financial resources, but also technological, human, legal, and managerial. Concluding, I am looking forward to seeing you all in person in Cyprus on the 7th of June, keep the date please, which is only the next step. The June ministerial meeting will lead to a heads of state meeting in October, in which the initiative will formally be launched. Meanwhile, we can plan a regional presence in the COP27 in November 2022 in Egypt, before climate projects and services start rolling in 2023. Once again, thank you very much for your participation and your support. And we have come to the end of our ministerial meeting. Thank you very much.